It's a really popular theory to say that this new crypto bull run will just be dominated by brand new altcoins and brand new altcoin projects. But there is another line of thinking that actually we won't see the new crypto bull run dominated by brand new projects, that in fact actually the new bull run will be dominated by those projects that were around in 2021 that have already seen a crypto bull run. They have had way more time to develop and establish themselves within the crypto industry. So if the likes of, institutions, large organizations want to take a small step outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are far more trusted, they are going to go into the projects that have had that time to build and therefore have had the time to build up trust. And there's nothing better for building trust than getting into bed with one of the largest organizations in the world, and I'm talking about BlackRock, the trillion-dollar company. And yes, I am going to be going through Hedera Hashgraph today. There's been some news recently that's come out about BlackRock and Hedera. We're going to be diving through that, as well as the whole of the Hedera ecosystem, to try and understand whether this is still a good risk to reward play for the upcoming bull market. Before we dive into Hedera, as always, if you like this video, hit the like button down below. And if you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. And if you don't want to miss out on videos like this, of course, hit the bell notification too. Finally, if you want help in building your own altcoin shortlist, everyone should have their own altcoin shortlist. 3 or 4 altcoins that are in your head, locked in. You've already done the research for them. You know which ones you favor, so that if you see favorable exchange rates, you can get into the market. So if you are struggling to build that kind of altcoin shortlist, that is why I put out my 80/20 crypto newsletter each and every week. So if you think this might be of interest to you, I'll leave a link to the newsletter down below. Go and check it out if that feels like something that could help. So Hedera Hashgraph, what are we looking at here? Well, Hedera Hashgraph is in the layer 1 narrative. It is trying to claim the title of the best layer 1 out there. Its main aim is to try and help build trust into Web 2 and also Web 3 applications that otherwise couldn't collaborate together. On the screen here, clearly real world asset tokenization is a big service for them. But if we then click on use cases, other use cases we've got include sustainability, decentralized logs, NFTs, consumer engagement and loyalty, decentralized identity, DeFi you can build on here, and also payments. So there is a broad range of services that you can build on top of Hedera. The other really important thing to note here is that Hedera Hashgraph isn't a blockchain. It doesn't use a blockchain infrastructure. Instead, it uses a hashgraph structure. And this is the hashgraph structure here. The blockchain, we have block after block. So transactions in a blockchain are organized into blocks, and each block is linked to the previous one, forming a chain. This sequential structure can impact the speed of transaction confirmation, so it can slow down the processing speed. On the right of the screen, however, we have the hashgraph structure. So the hash graph uses a directed acyclic graph structure, so a DAG, where transactions are linked in a more complex graph rather than a linear chain, and this structure can potentially lead to faster transaction confirmations. Hedera Hashgraph also uses a different consensus mechanism. So whereas most blockchains use proof of work or proof of stake, Hashgraph uses a different consensus mechanism, also known as Hashgraph. So it doesn't rely on mining or staking and claims to achieve consensus more efficiently through what's known as a gossip protocol. So those are 2 key elements there, that the Hedera Hashgraph uses a DAG structure and the gossip protocol, and all of these combined is meant to make it faster and more secure than the blockchain. And I've heard a lot of people say that this is meant to be the next evolution in blockchain technology. In terms of though speed, scalability, and security, Hedera is up there with some of the best in the industry. It has a transactional throughput of about 10,000 TPS, so transactions per second, and it offers a unique feature of stabilized transaction fees. Instead of the volatility of gas fees that we see with the likes of Ethereum and Solana, transaction fees, gas fees on Hedera are stabilized, which makes the blockchain really, really attractive for the likes of businesses and corporations, because businesses and corporations don't want to have to deal with those wavering gas fees. It's an unknown cost for a company. So Hedera has been around since 2018. That is when it was founded, and it was founded by Dr. Lehman Baird, and also a guy called Mance Harmon, and that started back in 2018. We can see that the team is completely doxed, and the team needs to be doxed because sitting on the governing council for Hedera are potentially up to 39 organizations and companies from around the world. So this is something that is unique to Hedera Hashgraph. So the project is run by this governing council of 39 global organizations: Google, Boeing, BitGo, EDF, Dentons, Ubisoft, Standard Bank, LG, Dell, some absolutely massive names. These companies are sitting on the board. It is collusion resistant, and they only have a set term time. So each of these companies can't indefinitely sit on the board for Hedera. There's a term limit for each of these companies. So Hedera's governance design assures no single company, small group of developers, or node operators has undue influence or control over the network. Now, moving on to Hedera Hashgraph's coin, which is HBAR. So HBAR is Hedera's native utility coin. It is used, as we can see here, as network fuel and network protection. So it is used for all the transactions that take place on the network require HBAR, and like similar proof of stake type blockchains, HBAR is also required in order to spin up a node in the network. So no matter the service you want to use from Hedera, and they offer, as we've already mentioned, plenty of services, you need to pay using HBAR, which means if adoption for Hedera grows, demand for HBAR should also grow. Now, turning to HBAR's tokenomics, we can see that the market cap for Hedera currently sits at just under $3.5 billion. So we are firmly in large cap territory here. Of a maximum supply of 50 billion HBAR coins, 35.7 HBAR are currently in circulation, which is approximately 72%. We can see that back in 2021, we had an all-time high price of approximately 47 cents. And then since then, we've had the bear market. We've had a lot of inflation of HBAR coins, which has driven the price back down to pre-2020 prices. And then over the last couple of months, we have seen a slight uptick in activity for the HBAR coin, where we've seen a local high of approximately 13 cents. Now that we've gone through some of the fundamentals for Hedera Hashgraph, I now want to look at the upsides. And the first includes the list of collaborations that it has around the world. So it is in bed with so many organizations globally. I've read about the names of the likes of NASA, the Australian government with regard to CBDC development, which we don't like, but that is partially going to be how blockchain is adopted by some governments. I've seen the BBC on some lists, LG. So there are huge names that Hedera is collaborating with. And in addition to that, that brings me back to this governing council of 39 members. And we can see that at the moment there is only 32. So there are 7 spaces left. But we've gone through some of the names here. Huge companies: Google, IBM, Chainlink, Standard Bank, Dell, EDF. And these entities are there to help steer and direct the network development. But more importantly, these global council members have so much connection with the current financial landscape that they could be enough to help Hedera grow. It must be helping them grow in the background. Obviously, we can't see the connections between these companies and Hedera, but you would think that if they are on the governing council, then there must be some good connections and some good networks that are coming out of that relationship. Last week, it was then announced that one of BlackRock's funds, its US Treasury ICS money market fund, was going to be tokenized via Hedera. And this caused Hedera's price to spike by nearly 100% in a day. However, so it was first reported that BlackRock had chosen Hedera to tokenize this fund, and that was incorrect. So the initial video that showed the announcement seemed to suggest that Onera and Arcax and BlackRock were partnered on the venture, and HBAR claimed it was bringing the world's largest asset manager on chain. Since that moment, BlackRock came out and said that they had no involvement in the decision to use Hedera. They were purely going through Arcax. So Arcax is a broker. They tokenize, they are in the business of tokenizing funds. They were the ones that selected the Hedera Hashgraph. So although there isn't a direct relationship between BlackRock and Hedera, the communication there doesn't exist. It is still a really good positive sign that Arcax, this broker for BlackRock, chose Hedera as the platform to tokenize BlackRock's fund. Finally, on the upside, I want to talk about the TVL for Hedera, which has been consistently climbing since approximately June, July of last year. We've seen it climb all the way up to a peak of 156 million. We've seen a slight retrace at the moment, but the trend as a whole has been trending upwards. So although the TVL is not massive, growing TVL is a good sign. So those are some of the upsides that I've been thinking about, but equally, like with every altcoin project, there are some massive risks. This is a speculative market. We need to take in the risks alongside the upsides. It is one of the most saturated niches, layer ones, in the whole cryptocurrency industry. Like, I have no idea how many layer ones are in existence right now. Hundreds, if not into the thousands. In reality, will we need them all in the future? No, we won't need them all in the future. I have no doubt that many of these will just die off. But the question is, will Hedera be one of those? We can see that it's currently in the ranked as number 30 in with regards to total market cap. So it's definitely in contention, but that doesn't guarantee anything. And then I want to talk about market cap. So the market cap of this is, as we said, just under $3.5 billion. It's already in the top 30 altcoins out there. So what gains can HBAR potentially offer in the future? If we're already sat at 3.5 billion, the leaders in the space, Solana, reached 100 billion. They were the leaders in the space. They had the most adoption. Now, perhaps Hedera can replicate that, but equally maybe not, because it was already around in 2021 and it didn't get the same look-in as a Solana did. But there is expected to be more liquidity that comes in for this crypto bull market, so things should increase in value by like more of a percentage. So let's say that Hedera does really well and it does reach that $100 billion mark, over $100 billion that the likes of Solana did last time. And that's if the likes of Solana go way beyond that. Say if Solana gets to 500 billion, maybe Hedera can get to 100 billion. So in that scenario, Hedera could still offer a reasonable return, say a 20x, but it needs to outpace competition again. Newer layer ones that have a much smaller market cap that still have the potential, if adoption is there, to increase to the likes of the heights of Solana, what we saw with Solana. Hedera won't have as much upside potential as that. And then finally, I want to talk about the yearly inflation rate for HBAR, which is incredibly high if I've got these numbers correct. So based on my research, over the last year, they saw an inflation, a yearly annual inflation of 140%, which means that over double the amount of coins were released into circulation. Now, while we're already on 71%, in terms of circulating supply, that means that there's just under 30% left to hit the market. If that inflation remains so high, that means that there's still a lot of coins going to be hitting the market over the next 12 months. So this, I don't think, is one that, okay, over the next 12 months, if this is the crypto bull run that we're in right now and that continues, then that's okay. But this is not a coin that you want to be holding as we head into another bear market. Feels like Hedera Hashgraph has been progressing over the years. It's now tried to slot itself into a kind of tokenization niche. At least that's what it appears to be slotting itself into, based on the news around BlackRock tokenizing one of its funds on there. It's all over its main front page website. It's this tokenization narrative, even though it offers many other services as well. And I can't blame it for doing that. The narrative of the tokenization of real world assets is huge in the industry right now. And we have the likes of BlackRock pushing that narrative even further. So it appears that Hedera is trying to provide services to try and plug at least part of that gap, which I think is smart. And that's it in terms of everything that I want to share with you on the Hedera Hashgraph protocol. I think it's a really fascinating blockchain. It's definitely one that has been building throughout the bear market. Everything is clearly trusted by organizations. Otherwise, we wouldn't see the tokenization of things like the BlackRock fund. Yes, there was a little bit of an overextended hype when that news came out last week, But things have now settled down again. And if you take a step back and appreciate how big of an event that was for Hedera, it's a good promising sign. And we're likely to see other funds and other things tokenized through the Hedera protocol. Now, if you enjoyed this walkthrough and you enjoyed looking through the fundamentals of Hedera, but you missed out on what my final decision is on HBAR and whether it is being added to my altcoin shortlist or not, that is limited to my 80/20 crypto newsletter subscribers. So, as I said at the start of the video, if you are interested in that, the link to my newsletter will be down in the description below. Each week, I will go through at least one altcoin and discover whether it is one we should be chasing after or whether it is one to avoid, because both are as important as each other. All that's left for me to say is that if you are thinking about investing in cryptocurrencies, please, please, please do your own research. These are highly speculative assets, and they should be considered alongside a portfolio of a variety of other assets. Crypto should not be the only thing that you are chasing after. All that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching, and if you have any suggestions for future videos, leave them in the description down below. And of course, if you have any extra details on Hedera and your personal thoughts on this protocol, please leave them in the comments as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.